Welcome back to the sessions. We are in day 25 session. Yesterday's session, we have seen the different types of curses in Java with respect to examples. And in today's session, we are going to discuss about comparator versus comparable. And with respect to examples, also I'll try to show you. Okay, first let me try to explain about what comparable, which we have already seen, but still we need to understand a little more. Comparable is meant for only few points. Comparable is meant for natural or else default sorting order. Okay, so what is the default sorting order? If the data is numbers, of course ascending order. Okay, if the data is something like string, the default sorting technique is alphabetical order, so dictionary order itself. So we should go for comparable interface. Okay, so to get the default sorting order itself. Okay, all wrapper classes, okay, and string class, okay, are comparable objects, meaning that these classes are implementing from the comparable interface. So this comparable interface is available inside the java.lang package. Okay, inside this we have compare to method is there. Using this method, we are able to perform the comparison. So basically compare to method return type is what? Integer. So if the first object is greater than second object, so it returns positive value. It returns positive value. Okay, it returns a positive value. If the first object is less than the second object, it returns what? Negative value. So accordingly, the data is going to be arranged. So if both the objects are equal, it returns what? Zero. So that is what you need to understand about what compare to method of comparable interface, which is available inside the java.lang package. We have already seen one particular program, but still you just try to observe it, whether it is really happening or not. For example, here it is a test 7. Make sure if you really see, for example, okay, let me try to define one more class with the name of test 8. You just please observe here. So I'm just defining the main method here. Okay, now I'm going to create the object for the tree set. So which I'm trying to add integers itself. TS equals to new tree set. Okay, after you create an object of tree set, okay, which is accepting integer. So simply ts dot add of 78, ts dot random numbers, you just add it, not a problem. Ts dot add of 55, ts dot add of 100. Okay, like this you just add it. System dot out dot println of ts. I have told you whatever the object you are adding to the tree set object. So this object is internally, whenever you create an object of tree set, internally it follows, okay, internally it follows one basic sorting technique itself, a default sorting technique. So if I run this application, okay, we are getting in ascending order. How we are getting this in ascending order? Because internally whatever the object you are adding, that is an integer. If you click on this integer class is implementing from the comparable interface. That is the reason. Okay, that is the reason I already told you comparable is meant for getting the data in the default sorting order, default sorting technique, that is ascending order. If the data is okay, numeric values, if the data is something like okay, if the data is something like okay, if the data is something like normal string itself, you will get the data in ascending order, sorry, alphabetical order. Okay, we'll see that also. For example, instead of integer, if I'm adding string, okay, so accordingly ts dot add of Rama, okay, ts dot add of John, okay, ts dot add of, okay, so Charvi, okay, so something like this I'm just adding. If I'm trying to run this application, again we are getting Charvi, C first, J after, and then R is the last. So how exactly we are getting? Even if you are observing this string class, so this string class is also implementing from comparable interface. So that is the reason internally, okay, whenever you are adding the comparable objects to the tree set, internally compare to method is going to be invoked by the Java compiler. So that is the reason we are getting in this particular default sorting order. Okay, so now my question is, is it possible, for example, okay, string is fine, integer is fine. For example, if I'm adding student, okay, let's see, ts dot add of new student of, come on, please, I'm just adding few objects, 100, comma, Rama. Already we have student.java is there, we have prepared. So where it contains student ID and then student name. Okay, default constructor, I mean parameterizer constructor is also there, not a problem. ts dot add of whatever the objects you are adding just now. These are something like anonymous objects. Okay, I'm adding two objects where it is 100, 101. If I'm running this application, immediately we are getting the error saying that class cast exception. I have told you already, if you really wanted to add any object to the tree set, it must be homogeneous and as well as what? It must be a comparable object. But whereas student, whatever the object you are trying to add to the tree set, the student object is not a comparable object. How can you make a Java object or normal Java class object as a comparable object? It's very simple. You have to define this class which must be implements from comparable interface of student type. Comparable interface of student type. So comparable is one of the predefined functional interface, I guess. If I'm correct, if I'm opening this, so this is control click public interface. Okay, only one method, single abstract method is there. That is what compare to method. If any interface contains single abstract method, all such kind of interfaces are known as functional interfaces. So that is coming in the, from the Java JDK 1.8 version onwards. That is the different matter. So comparable interface is the predefined interface, which is, available inside the java.lang package, which contains one abstract method, that is compare to method. That is the reason, obviously, when we are implementing from this comparable interface, it is always looking for what that implementation for that particular compare to method logic itself. For example, if I keep the cursor and if I click on this add unimplemented methods, so that you will get this. I have already told you compare to method, okay, which returns what integer type, which is accepting the student type. So because you have already mentioned implements comparable of student, sir, if you are not mentioning the student, immediately we are getting the error here itself because it is accepting any type of object. So again, you have to typecast. So I already told you when should you, if you go for what generic type, you no need to like what typecast from object to like what student type. So directly you can use this particular student object. So that's a basic advantage of going for generic stuff. And now what kind of logic you have to write here, that is the important thing here. For example, as I said, okay, for example, since it is returning what integer, if I'm return st this dot stid, okay, dot compare to method. I'm calling the compare to method of o dot get stid. So if I'm calling this, okay, why we are getting this error? One second. We save this. Still we are getting this error, no? Okay. Cannot invoke compare to of int on the of the primitive type int. Compare to method is expecting only object. Okay, one second. Okay, if this is the case, I'll try to like what write this. If o dot get stid, okay. So I'm just comparing. If this dot stid is greater than o dot get stid, it returns what? Positive value. Any number, but value must be what? Positive value itself. Any value. So else if this dot stid less than, okay, o dot get stid, okay, return negative value. So based on this value signs only, the values, the data is going to be arranged in that particular, internally it follows some balanced tree algorithm itself. So else, okay, return what? 0, meaning that both the objects are equal. So this is the logic behind the compare to method. Now, this is the logic. Which logic? This logic is for what? Getting the data in which order? Natural sorting order or default sorting order. This is the logic behind this compare to method. Whether you might be applied on top of the predefined wrapper classes or string or user defined object also, it's same. But you need to understand this is the behind the scene logic. Okay, that I implemented manually here itself for my user defined objects. So just come to like what tested.java. Now, if I run this application based on, for example, here I am adding something like 1000. I'm adding, save it. First, based on the student ID, only I defined this particular logic inside where exactly in the student.java. Based on the student ID, I am trying to like performing this comparison. So if I run this application based on the student IDs only, we are getting 101 first, 1000 is second. Sir, if you are changing the logic, existing logic, for example, instead of positive value here, if I'm changing the signs, so you just observe previously we got 101 and then 1000. Now if I run this application, come to the test7.java, If I run this, first you are getting the, okay, sorry, it is not test 7, sir, it is test 8. So if I run this application, first we are getting 1000. So just by changing simple logic, okay, just by changing the signs itself, automatically that entire order is going to be changed itself. So now my question is, sir, you are sorting the data based on the student ID. You are sorting the data based on the student ID. Okay, let me some comparable example. So student.java, save it, control V, and here this is the student, right? So I'm just taking the tested.java also for the reference purpose, tested.java, because I'm going to change few things based on my requirement and then scenario. That is the reason I'm just taking the backup before only. Now it's fine, right? Now my requirement is I wanted to sort it out by using student name. Simply, sir, if this dot st name get st name, immediately we are getting the error. Why? Because of st name is what of string type. On top of the string, how can you perform these arithmetic operations? It is not possible. Then how can you sort the data, especially by using this string on top of the string? It's very simple. As I told you, comparable interface is meant for getting the natural sorting default sorting order. So what you have to do is, after you implementing from the comparable interface, from the compare to method, again try to invoke the compare to method. Okay, self method invocation. We used to like what call it as what self method invocation. How can you do this? Return, come on please, return st name, or else this dot st name is also fine. St name dot compare to method of o dot get st name. If I'm running this, it's simple. If I'm running this, Rama, John, you get, right? Now the data is going to be sorted out based on the student name. First John will come and after that Rama will come. I don't know about the cases, but we'll see. If it is not coming, we'll try to change the case also. Rama, John only will get. Okay, I'm just changing the case. John. Okay, test it. If I run this application, see here, John it is coming, Rama it is coming. In the student.java, if I'm changing the sign from here minus stname dot compare to off to the, if you run this application, first Rama will come. So like this, we can change the exact so what exactly it is, something like this. Okay, in this way, using comparable interface, we are able to like what perform this kind of sorting techniques, and based on the requirement, we can change those okay logics also like this itself. Okay, so this is also I'm just giving based on the student name. Okay, student.java, especially this is for what, with respect to student name itself. So in this way, we supposed to like what write the, or else implement the logic by using this compare to method. From the compare to method, again you are trying to invoke the compare to method to get that natural sorting order. If you are removing this, you will get exactly alphabetical order. If you are giving the minus, it is in reverse order. So like that. So that is about what comparable interface. Okay, if anybody is asking, comparable interface is available inside the java.lang package, which is used for, okay, are getting the data in which order, tell me, default sorting order. If it is a numeric values, getting in ascending order. If it is a string data, getting in alphabetical order. If you want to change the order, you just supposed to like what change the logic inside the compare to method like this itself. Okay, now we will go for what one more interface, that is what comparator interface. It's very important. Comparator interface available inside, okay, java.util package. Inside this, inside this we have one, inside this interface we do have one predefined method is there. What is that? Compare method. I think compare method. Let me cross check in the Google itself. Comparator interface API in Java. So open docs.oracle.com. So inside this, we have two methods, I guess. Okay, equals method is also there, but compare. Okay, it's not comparator. 1 second. 1 second. So many are there. This is an interface available inside the util package, and this is also a functional interface. Functional interface means what? It contains only one object. See, this is the method. Compare method, which is accepting two objects. Okay, and it is returning what? Integer only. Compares its two arguments for order itself. So this method you have to focus on this particular method, compare method. So where T1 and then T2, it is representing two objects itself. So how exactly we can see comparator is meant for what? Comparator is meant for what? So more flexibility is there. Comparator is meant for, okay, getting our own order, getting the data in our own order, okay, or else customized order or custom order itself. Okay, but this is not available inside the java.lang package. This is available inside the java.util package only. So how you will get it? For example, just take the same example. Come back to like what tested here. If I'm not using this implements comparable interface, okay, if I'm not overriding this method, okay, if I'm not overriding this method, simply remove it. Come back to tested.java. Okay, tree set. If I'm running this, when I'm trying to like what run this, you're getting the class cast exception itself. You're getting what class cast exception? Why? Because student is what kind of object? It is normal Java class object. But to add anything to the tree set object, it must to be homogeneous and as well as what? Comparable object. But student is right now what kind of object? It is a normal Java object. So in this case, okay, if you really want to get the order in the customized order, what you have to do is instead of creating the tree set object by using default constructor, here we have UC sir, tree set default constructor is there, tree set which is taking collection, which is taking sorted set, which is taking comparator. So now I'm taking the third one itself, which takes the comparator object. For example, new student ID comparator. Okay, student ID comparator object I am passing. Student ID comparator object. So this is the class name I am passing. So meaning that what? One second. You just observe here. Why I am doing, you will understand. Let me copy this. While I am creating the tree set object, okay, you are passing one particular comparator object. So how can you make this comparator object? It's very simple. Define one class. Okay, define one class with the name of student ID comparator. Click on this add, and it must be implementing from comparator interface. And this is of which type? Tell me, student type. Like this, if you click on this, now student ID comparator implements comparator of student itself, where you need to override the compare method O1 and then O2. So how can you perform this logic? Tell me. If O1, okay, is greater than, or else if O1 dot get stid is greater than, come on please, is greater than O2 dot get stid, returns what? Tell me, positive value. Returns what? Tell me, positive value. Any value, sir. Okay. Else if O1 dot get stid is less than O2 dot get stid, okay, return what, sir? Minus, negative value itself for getting the natural sorting order. Else return 0 itself. So in this way, we are going to like what? The same kind of logic is already available inside the compare to method of comparable interface. The same kind of logic here inside the compare method of comparator interface we are implementing. Okay, now since the same this logic is meant for what? Looks like default sorting order. You just go to the test.java, and if I run this application now, when I'm trying to run this, you will get 101,000 based on the student ID comparator. It is coming itself. For example, okay, now I wanted to like what? Sort the data. Okay, I wanted to like what? Sort the data based on the student name itself. If this is your requirement, what you have to do? It's very simple. ts.new. I'm just making the above line is in comment. Reset. Okay, of student. Here, what I'm doing? New student name comparator. Like this, as many comparators as you want, you are going to create the objects. So now, if I'm enabling this, the data is going to be arranged in the based on the name itself. So student name comparator you have to create. It's very simple. Let me copy this. Okay, one more, try to like what? Create one more class. Okay, with the name of student name comparator. It is implementing from comparator interface of student type itself. Okay, if I'm clicking on this finish method, then automatically it is coming something like this. Now what you have to do is, okay, again you have to write the logic. Again, what logic you have to write? O1 dot get st name, okay, is greater than O2 dot get st name. Immediately we are getting the error, sir. Why we are getting the error? Because st name is returning what? string type. On top of the string type, how can you perform these arithmetic operations? So that is the reason, again, from this compare method of comparator interface, you please try to invoke, okay, the compare to method of comparable interface. How can you do this? Return o1 dot, okay, get st name dot compare to method of o2 dot get st name. That's it. So when you are doing like this, automatically you will get the data, okay, based on the student name in the alphabetical order you are getting. Okay, for example, you just observe here, tested, you already made this as a commented. Now, while I am creating the tree set object, I am passing student name comparator. Inside the student name comparator, you define this logic. You will get the data based on the student name in alphabetical order. So in this way, if I am getting John and then Ram will come. Okay, John and then Ram will come. See here, John and then Rama. So now, if I'm changing this, instead of O1, if I'm changing O2, or if I'm changing here O1, the order will be changed. Or else you can use the minus also, negative sign also. Like this also you can change, like that also you can change. It's all about your comfort. Okay, now come to like what tested.java. If I'm trying to like what run this, definitely we'll get Rama and then John itself, and that too based on the student name itself. Okay, so this is all about what comparator interface. As while you are working in the real time, so especially while you are working on the e-commerce websites. Okay, for example, if I am opening any flipkart.com, see, just observe here, flipkart.com or amazon.com. If I click on this electronics, okay, if I'm clicking on this electronics, computer or sports computers peripherals, okay. For example, if I'm clicking on this mouse, especially we have some filters are there, right? You see, 1 second, more notifications, some filters are there, especially while we are fetching the data, we do have like different filters are there. For example, I would like to like what get this based on the brand itself, where exactly somewhere the option is there, right? 1 second. Not seeing any order because I did not log in. So might be that is the reason I'm not coming. I mean, it is not coming. Okay, for example, Realme. Okay, for example, if I'm clicking on this Realme phones are coming. And even if I'm changing the price from up to 20,000, accordingly the data, the mobile phones are going to be displayed. So meaning that when I, for example, if I'm clicking on 8 GB and above, accordingly the data is going to be displayed. So the different comparators. So from while you're working from the end user side, end user may get different kind of requirements. So to achieve all those requirements, okay, we have to like what prepare the logic like this itself. Few people are trying to like what fetch the data based on the student ID in the reverse order. Few people are fetching the data based on the student name. Few people are trying to fetch the products based on the product price, product brand, product something like weight. So we don't know, like so we have to provide all these facilities to them. Accordingly they are able to like what fetch the data to meet their requirement itself. In such a way, you have to create your collection object and passing that different comparator object to get their data in their own order itself. That is the reason comparator is always meant for what getting is always meant for what customized order, custom order. Comparable is always meant for generally it's a natural sorting. So usually for numeric values it is an ascending, for string values it is always something like alphabetical order itself. I hope you understand. So it's a very important concept. So the comparable versus comparator interface. Just try to like what practice more and more examples so that you will get the clarity itself. Okay, so if any doubts you have after you refer this session, if you have still any queries while you're doing the programs, if you're not getting anything, you please try to like what comment those questions. I'll try to clear those queries also. Okay, so please like this video, share this video to your needy friends. Thank you. Thanks a lot.